everyone, welcome to the first official version of Melbourne Real. Hey Andrew.
Jack.
How you going, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm really well. It's good to be here doing our first proper podcast.
2013, we made it past December 21.
Yep, I think we were all pretty certain of that happening.
Yeah.
But, there really were a lot of people that genuinely thought we were fucked and just really believing that was the last day on earth, which is...
Oh yeah, I think 5 million people went to Mexico for December 21, 2012.
Reason being...
Just because that's where the mines, where they eventuated and where they were located, and people went up to the pyramids and they wanted to be around that area for that period.
Yeah, okay, that would have been cool.
But I did see one fascinating photo that was passed on to me through Facebook, where the light was being projected out of the centre of the pyramid into the sky, and everyone said it was a phenomenon. Now, who knows what it was, but it was a pretty impressive photo. And if you get on YouTube or Facebook or just Google it, just say light coming out of pyramid in Mexico, it looks amazing. The photo's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think it was maybe photoshopped or?
I don't know, but there was a number of different people from different cameras, different perspectives, all posted the same photo.
Okay.
So they all couldn't have photoshopped
the same thing at the same time to look absolutely precisely the same.
Yeah.
Hey, before we move on, we should say hi to Brian and Nick, and thank you very much, fellas, for being so supportive in our initiative. We're still doing it pretty rough and ghetto style, but slowly but surely we'll get it a bit more sophisticated in terms of the technology and whatnot. And thanks very much, guys. You guys have been terrific. And one day, if you're open, we should try and get a Skype hookup and talk a little bit of shit. I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Thank you, guys. I do really appreciate it. We both really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. Yeah,
it's cool, because these two guys don't know us from a bar of shit. And, they were just completely open, previously, and put an open invitation out to people who said, look, if you genuinely want to do something, we want to help. And these guys have helped, in their own little way they've helped, and it's been a big help. And it's just given us further inspiration and motivation to do this. And, I think the whole idea of the podcast and having these kind of talks and discussions and sharing information is a really, really good thing. And, we in turn hopefully can grow this little baby, and we'll be able to help other people, whether it's directly or indirectly. So, because I really am a great believer in the adage of you become successful by helping other people become successful. And, while we haven't met Brian and Nick, they certainly seem like guys who have integrity and walk their talk, and they're the kind of guys you want to connect with, the kind of guys you'd want to hang out with, the kind of guys you'd want to be involved with, and the kind of guys you'd want to be more like as well. So,
and definitely the kind of guys that you enjoy listening to as well. Like
fuck yeah.
The show's fascinating, cool guests, always really interesting. Always seems to be really humble and open to different people's opinions, and yeah, it's cool. It's an awesome show. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for us, it's something that, they raise the bar, and it's like, hey, you know what? We want to be as good as those guys and achieve what they've achieved, and, do it in their own way, of course, but be a part of a community and feel like we're belonging to something. So again, thank you so much, fellas. We really appreciate your openness and your help, and we hope one day we get to actually cultivate a personal relationship with you.
Absolutely. All right.
So, what are we going to throw out today?
Well, what did you do for Christmas?
My Christmas this year actually was really low key. I just hung out with my kids in the morning, and I was meant to hang out with my my lady friend, but due to some shit that was going on. I wasn't able to be there with her, which is quite unfortunate. But look, it was a very low-key Christmas. But I think Christmas to me has really kind of changed the meaning of it, and it's become so commercialised. And I don't really have any family apart from my 3 children, so it's not like I have a lot of family to go and hang out with and do anything with. So, but look, it was cool, man.
Yeah.
But it could have been better.
Yeah, we've definitely got to get onto the whole astrotheology about Christmas and about the sun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about that. But yeah, and what did you do for New Year's? Did you get up too much?
Actually, New Year's Eve, believe it or not, I was sick as a dog, man.
Yeah.
I had this viral thing, and I don't normally get sick. Ever since I've kind of become a lot healthier, I just haven't been getting any illnesses or sniffles. And man, I copped this virus that I just woke up in the middle of the night, sweating like a pig, and then getting the chills, and I was fucked for a couple of days. So I slept right through it, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
Pretty non-eventful.
Oh,
How about you, buddy? How about yours?
Christmas was just, lunch at my folks, and then head down to the in-laws, hang out with them from the evening, and sort of came home at 9:30, 10 o'clock, went to bed. And New Year's was probably a little bit more exciting. I was at a toga party on the New Year's Eve. So we all got dressed up. I dressed up as a Roman warrior, and
as you do.
My missus was Xena.
Yeah.
So it was that was always a bit of fun, and it was such a good group of people, at such a diverse age. Like we had, the youngest person there was probably about sort of 25, 26, and the oldest person there was 70.
Oh, right.
And so and everyone made an effort to get dressed up, even the oldies, and it was cool, it was good fun. And that finished at about 1:30, and then we came home, and then on New Year's Day we went to a friend's place for a barbecue, had something to eat, hung out with the kids and their families and everyone else, and then the boys just came back to my place, and then we just hung out here till about 4 or 5 in the morning, and carried on for a bit, and then slept all day yesterday. So
nice. I'll tell you what, I got to experience some of your mother's cooking, because today when I came in and we did the podcast out of Andrew's house, and I said, I feel a bit hungry, and he said, do you want to try some of my mother's dip? Some eggplant dip or baba ganoush? Yeah? And man, it's the shit. It's absolutely amazing. So I'd love to one day experience some of your mother's home cooking, man. I reckon it would be like a non-sexual orgasm.
Yeah, she's good. She's good. I mean, they're retired now, so they all hang out together, and as a community, they're friends. And what do? They spend all afternoon cooking with each other, and they're things that they enjoy doing, and so that's how they fill their time. That's why they're so good at it, because they do it so much. Yeah.
But they do it with love too, man.
Yeah, they do it with love.
That's what I said. I said, no shit. I said, I can taste the love in this. This is fucking awesome. Yeah.
The thing is the other thing, back in their day, like growing up in poverty, and in Lebanon where they were raised, having a full meal on a table was always a celebration.
Yeah.
Like, it would only happen at someone's birthday, otherwise the rest of the week they'd be eating basic food, very simple basic food. So like eating meat was once probably a month, because it was quite expensive and not everyone can afford to eat meat. So all those things, like now that they have access to it, as soon as we come over, the first thing they want to do is feed you, because it's a sense of celebration for visiting, and it's the way that they share their love. And
absolutely. And I think a lot of European cultures and Middle Eastern cultures, food equates to love. It's their way of showing abundance and love to you. And how often they say, eat, and you're not hungry. It's almost like they feel insulted by that, because it's like a personal rejection. Yeah.
That's what it feels like when I go to my in-laws. Like when I'm my mother-in-law, as soon as I walk in the door, you hungry? It's like you just got to eat something just to say,
Yeah, to be polite and show some respect. Yeah. Tell me a bit more and to others about Jordan, because he's a relatively new character to me as well. I've got a certain view about him, but you tell me a bit more about him, because I'm fascinated.
Well, look, he's a guy that's been doing this sort of research for a very long time. He's well looked up to from everyone from David Icke to David Wilcock to Michael Sarian, all those big speakers that we all know about. A lot of the time refer to Jordan Maxwell's work, and he's kind of I don't know, I see him as the godfather of this sort of philosophy and this sort of conversation, and a lot of people do look up to him, and so he's been around for a very, very long time, written lots of books. He's a really smart guy. Doesn't always present himself to be the most positive, but I guess when you've been researching this thing for a very long time, I think he's seen a lot of the darkness that is surrounded, especially his country in America, and about how much people are suffering for no reason at all. So fascinating guy. Definitely has a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of talks on YouTube you can watch. Definitely worth checking him out.
Do you think that guys like Ike and Hancock, etc., they all network together with guys like that?
Look, I'm sure that they do, because a lot of the talks that they do, like in the US and those sorts of areas in Canada, and they all they do talks like they'll be at a day seminar, and there might be 3 of them together. So you might have one seminar that might be Jordan Maxwell and it might be Michael Sarian and somebody else. So they always cross paths, and they've gotten to speak to each other and hang out with each other at some stage. Yeah. But in relation to information and that sort of stuff, I'm not quite sure whether they would share their information that way, or whether they just buy each other's books and read each other's information just to see what their thoughts are and what they're preaching.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite amongst the aforementioned group?
It changes all the time depending on what I'm actually really listening to, but recently I've really, and I know it's a little bit darker side of things, but he's similar to Maxwell Jordan, but Michael Sarian is a very, very smart guy. Another guy that's done an incredible amount of reading. Really like what he has to say. But it's also heavy listening.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Is he an English guy or American?
He's Scottish, I believe. He's half Scottish, but I think he resides in the US.
Okay.
At the moment.
Well, the guy that I seem to really like, I like David Wilcock. I love his disposition. I love his positivity. I love the fact that he can show you the negative side and bring all the darkness out, but not in a way where it scares you.
Yeah. Or
it becomes very fear-based. And Greg Braden's another guy who I like, and I like him because he's a scientist, and yet, he's crossed over to the other side of things, and he holds a really nice balanced view of things, and he breaks it down in a way where someone like me, who's not, technical or scientifically minded, in a way that I can understand, and it makes sense to me. And again, he's got a really cool, positive vibe about him. And I think that, unlike people like David Icke, who I have great respect for, but when I first saw David Icke, I really got scared, really. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, this is a guy that's talking about don't buy the fear, but yet the way I interpreted what he was going on about was very fear-based. It's like, hang on, dude, this almost sounds like a contradiction here. But now, as I'm sort of learning more things, I'm getting to understand better the way he's going about it, and I think there is a place for him. Yeah. But Wilcock and Greg Braden, the 2 guys who I seem to like the most and have been getting the most inspiration from over the last couple of years. Yeah,
Greg Braden is definitely, I really like what he has to say. I like the way he presents himself. I like the way he presents the information. And they're all positive things, and he does it in a very enlightened way. David Wilcock I really liked at the beginning, and then as time went on, a lot of the things that he was obviously talking about was specific to 2012. And, and that there was something great that was going to happen, and you know, within this time period. And I know in his last presentation in Melbourne when he came out and I went to see him, he did talk about it's a period of time. It's not one day. It doesn't happen overnight, and that it happens over a period. And that period, I think he alluded to, you know, like it's a couple of year period before it actually goes through that cycle. So, but yeah, it's just I like information that's more about the psychology now. Like, you know, David Wilcock was about a period of time and information about time. For me, I'm really getting into the psychology of the human mind, and when you listen to guys like, you know, Jordan Maxwell and Michael Sarian and those sorts of things, it's more about us and the way that we think and, you know, our environment and how it influences us as people, and that's more interesting to me at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm still exploring, man. I'm still trying to get my head around all this shit. But I find it really interesting, and I think the whole thing of human psychology is fascinating to me as well, because particularly now as I've started a motivational speaking business, I'm fascinated to know more about what makes us tick and what makes us who we are, and I guess to better understand myself too, as to how I can get mastery over my consciousness.
Yeah.
You know? So,
well,
yeah.
I think if any information that can help you, and this is why I've been getting into the psychology of the human mind more now, is the more that I think about myself and look at the way that my train of thought works and look at the way that I react to certain situations, for me, that's what's important, because, yeah, they always say you can change the world by changing yourself, you know, and the better that we become as people and the more evolved we can become, you know, and the more spiritual we can become, and all those things that can help us just move forward as people on an individual basis will help us work collectively better.
Yeah. And
so that's sort of my thoughts on it, and that's why lately it's really been about the internal focus of me. And so, you know, look at the things that I do that I am proud of and why I do them, and how do I get past it, and how can I change the way that I react to certain situations, and that's important to me right now. So so it's kind of funny. You adapt to the things that are important to you right now, and that's why certain speakers
resonate more with you than others.
Yeah.
For me, my focus right now has been more on awareness and just trying to be more present and in the moment with everything, and trying to catch myself out on different things. I mean, I'll give you an example. My girlfriend and I had a falling out, if you will, and the thought process, looking back on it, that drove me to behave the way I did was driven by the mind of a young boy. And it was interesting because at the time, well, not right at the time, but pretty soon after the time, I thought to myself, fuck, what was that about? Where did that come from? Why did I say that?
Yeah.
And trying to explore that and look into it and work it all out. And a few years ago, mate, I just would have been running on this autopilot, and it just would have been my ego, I guess, just driving the bus. And now I'm getting better at it, and by no means am I a master of it, but you know, I'm trying to get better at it. This is what I'm trying to work on right now. It's just about awareness and being present and in the moment, not thinking about what's going on in the future, not worrying about the past. And, you know, I still do have concerns about it because I'm a long-term thinker, and I'm thinking, for example, I better watch out what I'm going to do today because the consequences that may happen down the line.
Yeah.
And they tell us that there's no such thing as the future and it's all an illusion and blah, blah, blah. But I guess it's through my programming or whatever.
I definitely think you have to look at all the good and bad things you've done in your life, and I think a lot of people tend to bury them.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't think you can ever move forward as a person until you actually face, you know, your darkest demons.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree. About 2.5 years ago, I went and saw a lady called Erica Splivers. She runs a life coaching business called Empowered Living. And that was the catalyst to me getting over the monkey off my back, was to be brave enough, if you will, to face the deep, dark shit and face up to it. And do you know what I found out it was, man? It was about forgiving myself at the end of the day, realising that I was a human being and I fucked up and I was not the person who I was told I was by my dad. And, you know, I was okay. I was absolutely fine. And once I realised that and said, I'm not my past, it was all part of a learning curve and I'm cool as I am, boom. It just completely changed everything. Completely changed everything. So, yeah, it's not an easy thing to deal with your past and not an easy thing to face up to certain things, but that's what you've got to do. You have to overcome that stuff because that's the stuff that binds you down, you know? So, yeah, you're right in what you're saying.
Yeah. You know, life's a funny thing, man. You know?
Yeah, but it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is.
It's a wondrous thing. And when you take the time to actually stop and, again, if you get back to that whole idea of being present and stopping and just going, hey, it's a beautiful day, the sun's out, I've got so much to be grateful for in my life, it's a fucking beautiful thing.
Yeah.
You know? And you just dwell on that. And that should be enough to sort of get you through. But again, just through external influences and programming and being bombarded by certain things, you know, it's easy to get caught up in the rat race and the bullshit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's the one thing that keeps me driven all the time is information. Like, I can't go without a week of reading or watching documentaries or looking at alternative people's views, looking at alternative people's lifestyles in rare countries and weird places, and just constantly educating myself on why things are the way that they are, how can we improve them, why do certain cultures do things better than other cultures, you know, what can we learn from these things. And for me, it's just about, I love reading and I love watching documentaries and I love doing all those sorts of things, and I spend so much time doing it, and it just keeps me motivated and driven, and I have a cool, you know, I like what I do for work, and you know, I've got a really cool business partner, and you know, we do all that sort of, you know, it's revolved around food and good quality food, and so for me, I'm really into that, and I do enjoy my time there. But on the flip side of that, I definitely love the reading and researching and learning more about, you know, other things and other people as well as myself, and writing music. You know, I still write music, probably not as much as I'd like to, but yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Reading has never been a big thing for me, man. It's just, I find that when I try and read, particularly a book, my mind seems to chatter, and it's almost like I'm trying to read quicker than what I'm actually reading, and I can't keep up. I've got no problem reading blogs, I'll read articles, something in smaller sound bites, but if you said to me, listen, here's a book, I want you to borrow it, I'll be honest with you and say, look man, you know what, I won't read it. The last time I read a book was the biography of a guy, Mark Opitz, famous Australian record producer, and the only reason I read it, to be perfectly honest with you, is because I had it hand-delivered by the author. One of the authors, Jeff Jenkins, is a friend of mine. He came to my house and hand-delivered it, and Mark himself signed a copy and sent it by registered post. So I was like, I better fucking read this book, because I don't want to ever one day bump into Mark and he's going to ask me, what do you think of the book? And I can't bullshit to him, because he might ask me, oh, what part of the book do you like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I did. I had it in the toilet, and every time I went and took a shit, I sat and read half a chapter. So over the course of about 6 weeks, I read this book. And it actually wasn't a bad book. It was a good experience for me. So he's a guy we should get on one day, man, because he's a fucking fascinating dude. And he's also a guy that's got some really interesting philosophies of life, as well as being just, you know, prolific in what he's done, and his story is fascinating. But anyway, you were talking about reading and stuff before, but I like watching docos too, man.
I'm a big docos person. I haven't been reading a lot lately. Documentaries, you can get a lot more information quicker.
Yeah.
And so reading can be a lot slower. So the other thing I do is every now and then I'll buy an audio book. And so I can put it on in the car, I can have it when I walk to work or whatever. Like I've always got it there. I've got access to it, and I can do two things at once when it's in audio.
Yeah, I've only ever done one audio book, and that was Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God.
Yeah,
changed my life, that fucking book, I must say. It was great. I think he's done 8 or 9 in the series. I don't think I want to go that deep. I think I pretty much got the gist of what he said, but I've done that, and I've just started The Power of Now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I've got that book.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's a book where I got the first half of the book I read in like a day or something, and then as it started to get to 2/3 into the book, I started to lose a little bit of interest, and then it took a little while for me to get back into it and then read the end of the book. But yeah, it's a good book though, and it does make you question, thought process. Definitely makes you question about your thought process.
Here's something that fascinates me. Why is it that something that is in principle so simple, it's interesting how it can be extrapolated to such a degree that it can be volumes and volumes of shit. And when you break it down, it all comes down to a basic principle.
Yeah.
You know? And that to me is really what I'm more concerned about. You have read a lot more than I have, you've seen a lot more than I have. For me, it's like, hey, motherfucker, just tell me what's the gist.
Yeah.
Just tell me the fucking bottom line. What do I need to do? How do I go about it? Boom. And then if I get a bit more interested in it, then I guess I'll find out a little bit more about the detail and whatnot. But for me, even in my work now, I'm the least technical person on the planet. It's just like, where's the knob? How do I make it sound good? Oh, that dial, it makes it do that. Oh, cool. Don't really understand about the technicality of it, but there's some things if I am interested in, yeah, sure, I'll investigate it further.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Well, look,
we're all different, aren't we?
Yeah, I like to say that I love the technical side of things, and the Eckhart Tolle book, the first part of it is about him and his story as a person, being a homeless guy and, all that sort of stuff. And so outside of the actual message, there's an underlying story that goes inside of it as well, and that's what makes it interesting, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we should wind it up here.
Yep.
Now listen, you're going to try and get a guest on in a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Tell us about your friend that we hope to get on.
Well, I mentioned it to him yesterday because he was over at my place, and he's a guy that's right into technology and internet and mobile devices and all that sort of stuff. He works for an IT company, he really is. I like to call it specialist. He understands programming, computer programming. He understands a little bit about hacking and that sort of stuff, and where piracy is going, how it's affecting industry and all that sort of stuff. And I think it'd be cool for us to have a real good discussion about technology and where we're at,
definitely,
how it's affecting us. So I'm not going to plug his name just yet, just to make sure that we've got this signed, sealed, and delivered, and we get him on.
All right. Well, let's hope we get that happening.
All right.
All right. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.